Oftentimes, to move from one level in life to a higher level in life, you have to learn how to learn. So, one of the things I spoke about in actually both of my books, No Throwaway Boy and my book, Kill Yourself, A Radical Guide to Self-Development and Living a Fulfilling Life, is that, when I was a young man, I was 17 years old. I was arrested for counts of armed robbery offenses, right? And I was locked up. And I was processed as an adult, although, again, I was only 17 years old. And because I had cases in different jurisdictions, I would be bounced from one jail to another jail, depending on part of jurisdiction. And because of the particulars of that particular jail and in my particular situation at that time, because they had gotten crazy, I had a lot of cases. But they not only decided to charge me as adult, when I got to the jails, they kept putting me in with adults. And mind you, for those who don't know, usually they have a minor section of the jail, and they keep minors with the minors, and then they have the adults. Not me. I was with the adults for most of my stay. One of the things that, looking back now, um, I learned was that I learned a lot of lessons from being around the adults. And when I'm talking about the adults, I'm talking about 65, 45, 30 years old, um, drug dealers, those facing life, those who've been in and out of jail in prison their entire lives. Hardcore New York dudes. Um, one of my first cellmates uh, was like a 67-year-old pimp from Detroit. Funny dude. Story for days. He talked all day, all night about pimping and this and that. But the thing is, you know, I wasn't necessarily put off by being around the adults, even though I was the only minor in the area. I was the only minor there. I was 17 because the adults saw something in me, and I'm talking about hardcore dudes, gangster dudes whose names were ringing in the streets. They saw something in me in terms of my heart and my willingness to stand up for myself. I don't care how old you are, how big you are. I'm not having it. None of it. And they would tell me oftentimes, it's something about you that's really, really real. And the older cats, well respected, made sure I was good. I didn't have any beefs. And looking back, the lessons that I learned from being in that situation was many. But one of the big ones was that you can learn from people who are been there and done that. And so Some life lessons you don't have to learn by physically going through them yourself. You can learn valuable life lessons from people who've been there and who have done that. And that's what I learned from these OGs. They taught me about how to survive because again, from a heart perspective, I was ready. I was 17, but I was ready, whatever. But mentally, I had not really lived. And so the journey that I was about to go on, because I was facing all these charges, I knew I was going to end up in prison. I've never been to prison. I ain't never been there. So I could only imagine what it looked like. But everyone around me been there, done that. And they taught me from their life experience what to expect, how to manage myself, how to deal with the snakes, how to identify the snakes, how to identify a snake that bites and a snake that just will get you caught up in some nonsense. There's a difference. They taught me about how to recognize different traps that's going to be set. Some by inmates and some by the guards. They taught me how to sidestep all of that because the guards quite often would try to put you in a trap where they can then isolate you because you react. They can put you in that box and you never know what's going to happen once they get you in that box. We're talking about solitary confinement. A lot of brothers know what I'm talking about. You end up dead and they're talking about, yeah, well, I think he was depressed and he hung himself. So I knew about all this from the OGs who schooled me for the months that I was in the jail waiting for my sentence, sitting with them, kicking it with them, learning from them. I was well schooled by the time I was sentenced, and I took a 12-year journey into the prison system. I knew a lot. And again, I learned it from just sitting and listening and learning. I learned in a few months, listen, I learned in a few months what many of these men had to learn the hard way over years and sometime over their entire lifetimes. I learned it in months. And so it kept me alive and well. All the knowledge, all the game that they gave me before I even stepped foot into the prison. And what I'm saying is that a lot of times you don't have to necessarily go through a lifetime of trials and tribulations to learn the game. A lot of times you can learn the game from people who've been there and done that. But there's a catch. A lot of times people will help you on your journey, but you have to know how to learn. I say you have to learn how to learn. You have to learn how to learn. And one of the biggest things I learned through that journey of a 17-year-old child into manhood by just reflecting back on something that so many of those OGs told me along the way. They said, you know why A lot of the OGs like you, man. And I heard this again and again and again. They say you're respectful. You're respectful. And one of the biggest criticisms that I've heard over the years about young men, particularly who are trying to come up, who are trying to learn, who are trying to get the game, and then they mad that dudes are not lacing them with game. They say the young dudes are disrespectful. And a lot of times the disrespect is not blatant. And we're going to talk about this. I'm making another video, and it's going to be on learning how to learn and the science of respect. A lot of times the disrespect is not blatant. A lot of times the disrespect just comes in the form of little subtle things. Like not shutting this, just listen. You don't have to talk all the time. You understand? Just listen. Because what happens is if a dude is really, really laced up with game and they willing to give it to you, and they give it to you, you can't stop talking. It appears that they're wasting their time, and you're not worthy of this game because you're not ready. You can't even control your mouth. Just listen. Let them flow. And you don't have to agree with everything that they're saying, because a lot of times you might not agree all the time, but just listen. And then maybe at a later time approach them. OG, you were saying last time you was talking to me about X, Y, and Z. You know, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to go this direction. You had mentioned X, Y, and Z. I wasn't sure. Can you expound on that a little bit? That's how you do that. You don't stop his flow and challenge him. Nah, that made no sense. I'm not sure. Nah, that's not how you do it. You understand? You have to learn how to learn. The science of respect. Be respectful. Learn how to learn. And to bring this home, like, because again, many, many years later, the lessons that I learned, I still practice sitting with the OGs, but now it's just the elders and the area of business, the area of law, the area of academia. I sit with them, the elders, and I listen. Just sitting with the elders and listening with respect. It goes a long way. No throwaway boy, man.